Conservative Home's deputy editor Henry Hill and Politico journalist Bethany Dawson. So welcome back to both of you. And in the last hour, we looked at a lot of the front pages, obviously dominated, as you would imagine, by Angela Rayner's departure and the reshuffle that followed. But take us inside this hour, Bethany. You've picked out a double-page spread in The Guardian, which actually neatly encompasses a lot of the elements that we were all focusing on yesterday and is being reflected on today. To begin with, they say that Rayner's departure is the worst blow for a beleaguered Prime Minister. And a lot of people say he's had a tricky first year. So is this the low point?
It's a really difficult point. I mean, there are quite a few low points to pick from in this last year. But this is a really difficult point. You know, losing Angela Rayner, who was... you know, I say this very politely, a lot more fun than Keir Starmer. She had a lot of character. She was one of the strongest communicators. She also represented that sort of the working class roots that Labour really tried to speak to. Losing her is really difficult. There is going to be a race for a deputy leader, which, depending who it is, you know, could go really badly for Keir Starmer. The membership will have to vote. A lot of the membership want a more left-wing approach. If it is somebody that doesn't agree with Starmer's way of leading the party, that could be really difficult for him.
Well, yeah, because it'll all be aired in part of the campaign, won't it? All those sort of criticisms will come out.
Yes, and we've got conference, which I think they wanted to look really smart, really polished. They wanted to look like the adults in charge. And now they have a new cabinet, a lot of people with new briefs, and they're going to be spending the next couple of weeks kind of frantically revising what they need to know all about. And actually, for the person that literally on Monday announced that it was phase 2, no one needs to worry, they're the government that have got it all under control. This is absolutely the last thing they wanted.
Well, yeah, phase 2B went into force yesterday.
It's like software, isn't it? It's like to version 2.1 now.
Well, exactly. And what do you make of that? So we've talked a little bit about the deputy leadership, which The Guardian is suggesting could re-expose divisions. But then they also go through some of the key new arrivals. And we say new arrivals, it's really moving people around, isn't it? There aren't many fresh faces. It's all about different people doing... the same people doing different jobs.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to have, at least in the short term, because reshuffles always do, a bad effect on government. Simply because now all of these people are having to get to grips with completely new departments, and that takes time. Especially a big department like the Home Office, you've got a huge in-tray. You spend a year, Yvette Cooper spends a year getting roughly to grips with the brief, and then...
The flip side of that is you get a fresh approach, you get people who you've learned a lot about how they work, and you put them, you target them in areas you think they'd be able to use their strengths. So
this is the Shabana Mahmood going to Home Office argument, I suppose. I mean, one, if you have a small number of ministers who perform very well, it is unfortunate that they do end up in this troubleshooting role, because actually some departments, including Justice, would really benefit from having somebody who was good at the brief in position for several years. But there's still the fact that even the best of them, they're starting from scratch, right? They don't know that it takes time to learn the ins and outs. What are the hidden landmines? What are the departmental quirks that you need to look out for? What might your civil servants not be putting you in tray that you'd really like to know about? All of those things take time. And so some of these moves will be wiser than others, but ultimately having a reshuffle this early and reshuffling people this often hugely degrades the ability of any government to get a grip on the state.
And is the danger, do you think, Bethany, that it looks like those people have failed in their job, so we're moving them out?
That is absolutely the thing that Keir Starmer is trying to avoid. He's only actually fired 2 people from government. That was Lucy Powell, the leader of the House of Commons, and the Scottish secretary. So, you know, the argument will be, well, everyone's doing a great job. We just want to mix it up a bit and do, you know, give them a new brief. However, it does indeed look like, as you say, you know, it could look like, well, they're not doing a good job. Let's mix it up. All of them, however, that have been reshuffled are quite strong communicators. And that's one of the things that this government has really struggled with their communication, showing that they're doing a good job. Case in point with the story we're talking about here. So, you know, it might be that we see a sort of punchier thing. The people that have got promoted are some of the strongest communicators in the government. But they're going to have to work incredibly hard to dodge that criticism that actually is everyone doing a bad job, and now you're just scrambling to try and find something they're better at.
So let's take a look at some of the opposition reaction. Inside the Eye, Henry, you've picked out an article focusing on Kemi Badenoch. What do you make of how they've tried to capitalise on this?
Yeah, I mean, just relatively rare story in which the Conservatives have actually managed to get into the papers, so that's always nice. Essentially, Starmer opened himself up for criticism a bit on this with how strongly he rode behind Angela Rayner originally, because especially because it would have been very easy for him to say, I'm going to prejudge the report from Sir Laurie Magnus, right? He could have just said, I'm going to reserve judgment. And instead, earlier this week, he and Rachel Reeves and others were really strongly saying, you know, we back this to the hilt, and now they've had to change their mind, which means that Kemi Badenoch is going with the attack line that it was actually he was really indecisive, that he should have moved quicker on this. I don't really think that's necessarily obvious, given that the report was that she didn't do anything deliberately wrong, but it was quite a fine judgment. But nonetheless, because of that, he's had to U-turn on this from earlier in the week saying, I absolutely stand behind this person, to later in the week them going. That is never a good look for a Prime Minister, and it does create an opening for the opposition, as the Conservatives will well know, because they went through that life cycle several times.
Yeah, and do you think that Kemi Badenoch has really managed to be heard and her criticisms have had some cut through here?
I mean, unfortunately for Kemi Badenoch, this was all happening whilst Nigel Farage was on stage. He moved his speech earlier in Reform Conference so that he could react to it. And he is the opposition leader who splashes the front pages about his reaction. So I don't, you know, she might be heard to people that are trying to listen to her. But in terms of sort of being front and centre of the criticism of this, she has failed.
And I also noticed that they are trying to take credit for bringing down Angela Rayner and exposing her, but the Telegraph might have something to say about that. Would you say that it was more journalism than...
Well, there were people who would accuse the Conservative Party and the Telegraph of being the same thing, unfairly. I do think that the Telegraph can take most of the credit here. It was a good week for the Conservatives in as much as this is a very bad story for Labour, and it means that Farage is probably getting less coverage than he would if there was nothing counter-signalling the Reform Conference. But it hasn't really got anything to do with the Tories.
Having said that, he is getting coverage on the front of the Daily Mirror this morning. They have a headline calling him a stamp duty hypocrite. So, Bethany, explain exactly what they're reporting here.
Yes, so they're reporting that his home in Clacton, his constituency, was bought by his partner as her first home, so she evades, she doesn't evade, she doesn't have to pay...
Evading is a crime.
Yeah. She does not evade. She doesn't have to pay the stamp duty, and they're accusing him of sort of dodging that on his home. The difference with the Angela Rayner story, right, is firstly, he's not the Housing Secretary, and secondly, it's completely legal for somebody to not pay stamp duty on the first home, and that's the rule, that's what happens under a certain price point. So, you know, I think it is... It's a difficult headline, right? Like, he could have paid stamp duty on this property, but he didn't because someone else bought it. It's not quite the same story.
Yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, I think it's fair to say that, has he not said, I have bought a house? Did he say he bought a house in Clacton? But obviously it's his partner that bought it. So, but what do you make of that?
I mean, I don't think there are many people who are going to be angry at Nigel Farage because, I bought a house in Clacton, it turns out your partner technically bought it. Like, how many of us would expect that much precision from somebody discussing their personal finances? It wasn't bought by a donor, it wasn't bought in any kind of dodgy way. It was his household finances that paid for it, but the legal purchaser is his partner. I think it's a false equivalence.
OK, so that blow is unlikely to stick, you think?
Oh, especially not with Farage's fans, right? I mean, always the case when a lot of people, you get progressives in some cases and they'll be attacking. It's like, Farage's fans don't care about this at all.
Just to have a final word on reform as well. I know the Telegraph's front page today is talking about the reshuffle, and they're looking at it through the lens of it all being about trying to tackle reform. So, you know, they seem to be putting a lot of emphasis on the immigration brief, for example. Do you think that's right? And do you think the reshuffle will make a difference in how they counter reform's arguments?
I think it will in terms of their communication. You know, putting Shabana Mahmood as the Home Secretary, she is a very good communicator. Yvette Cooper into Foreign Affairs, she is a good communicator. You know, there is, I think on that point, yes, that is probably a move done to counter Farage. But in terms of, I don't think we should be expecting to see a massive policy change or massive stance shift because of this reshuffle or indeed because of reform. I think the voters have shown very clearly that they want more on immigration to be done and those numbers of people coming in lowered. But the government have already committed to doing that. That's not going to change because of this reshuffle or indeed because Nigel Farage was being serenaded on stage at his conference, right? So I think reform will, of course, be in their mind, but I don't think they'll be the first priority with picking who to go into what job.
And just looking at the pictures there on that front page, obviously they've got some of the cabinet movements, but the main picture is Angela Rayner. She looks like she's got a bag on and she's leaving office there. I'm sure that was taken possibly even years ago, but a while ago. But just reflect on what a loss she is for the government, Henry. What does she represent and what do they not have now she's gone?
Well, she was a good counterpoint to Sir Keir Starmer. Very different communication style, very different background, spoke to a different part of the Labour coalition, quite charismatic. And he really needs that. I mean, she said herself, I think, that she and Keir actually partnered up very well, given that they didn't actually run on a joint ticket for the leadership and the deputy leadership. And it's hard to find talents like that in politics. Whatever you think of her actual political views, or I'm on the different side of the aisle to her, she's undoubtedly a really first-rate, natural communicator, and the government only has very few of them to go around.
Natural communicator and had a lot of ties to the left of the party. Nigel Farage is saying that's now they're going to be massive splits now that she's gone, and that will force a general election in just 2 years' time. I mean, do you think there will be splits? What do you make of that? I mean,
we've seen splits already in this parliament. If you think back to the welfare vote, where there was a big rebellion, and you know, if there's no split in Labour, then I think something's probably gone wrong. But it depends on who that deputy leader is. I think we should. I think it will be likely that it will be someone from the left of the party. As you said, you know, Rayner countered Keir Starmer quite well. The membership liked her. I think the membership would like someone more to the left. The issue with that, though, is finding someone on the left of the party that works well with Keir Starmer. And I think that is where the issue will be. Whether there's a big enough split to cause a general election, I'd be kind of surprised, but stranger things have happened.
We've got a couple of minutes, just deal with a couple of other stories. The death of the Duchess of Kent. Henry, you picked this out as a double-page spread about her in the Express today. Obviously that news didn't get a huge amount of attention yesterday because of all the political ramifications going on, but the paper's reflecting on her life. Yeah,
I think the thing that leapt out at me, I don't know if anyone knew this until she passed away and it came out, is the fact that after this storied royal career, she then went and was just a music teacher, anonymously. She was Mrs. Kent in a comprehensive school in I can't remember the name
Hull?
of the. Is it Hull? Yeah. And she did that for 13 years, and only the headmaster knew that she was who she actually was. And I was just, that's really remarkable, because when you're a royal, it seems like a nice gig from the outside, but it can be really, really gruelling. You're doing a whole life basically dedicated to opening things, you know, public service, and to get to the end of that and be like, you know what? I want to go and be a teacher now.
I want to give something back.
Well, it's a real testament to her character.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've heard this morning on Sky some really wonderful stories that had teachers speaking about how she would make herself a tea in the staff room and talk to everybody. And I think it's probably, you know, it's a big loss to the royal family. As you said, she did so anonymously. But I think the royal family were probably very happy to have somebody so committed to community and giving back, as you say. And I think that's a big loss.
We are out of time, but it's been great having your company this morning, Bethany and Henry, on such a big political day again. Thank you.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's Senior Ireland Correspondent.